Welcome everybody to the Eclipse Cloud DevTools Working Group quarterly call. My name is Brian King. I'm the community manager for Cloud DevTools. Great to have you all here. Just a reminder that this call is recorded. Today, we're going to probably follow the format we've been using for last couple of quarterly updates that we have. We're going to jump in straight away with updates from some of our projects. You know, obviously the projects are the lifeblood of everything we do. Without the projects, there would be nothing. There'd be nothing for the working group to oversee. So I think it's important to hear from our projects first. And then we're going to jump in and we're going to talk about some of the work we've been doing over the last few months in the working group. So this is the agenda for today. We'll just be giving you, I'm going to be handing over to Tim DeBoer, the chair of the steering committee, to say a few words about the program plan and about his experiences in the working group recently. And as I said, we'll be doing the project updates. We'll be talking a little bit about an exciting new initiative we've had, the Embedded Special Interest Group, which is making great progress. Clark is going to talk about some of our thought leadership programs, and we'll give a membership updates. And hopefully we'll fly through all that and we'll have time for questions and for discussions. But feel free, if you find an opportunity in the meantime, to just jump in with your questions. Okay, so without further ado, Tim, do you want to say a few words about the working group?
Thanks, Brian. If anyone's been on these calls before, you already know about the working group, so I'm going to try and keep it fairly quick this time. But our role is just to look across the projects and to help build, expand our ecosystem of projects and increase collaboration and awareness of them. You can go to the next page. Our priorities for this year, just to, again, go over them quickly. As Brian said, it's all about the projects, right? We're not here to be a working group. We're here to help the projects. How do we help them expand, increase awareness of them? What can we do as a working group to increase that adoption? So if projects do have any ideas or they could use help that, there's resources that they don't have, please reach out and, we'll figure out a way to help you. Our second strategic goal is, as always, to look at collaboration across them. We're not just individual projects, but, we've got a huge body of committers, of companies that are involved. What can we do to make the projects work better together, to use the resources in one project to help another, technical initiatives that we can do across multiple projects. The third goal is to increase our thought leadership. We want people to not only, when they think of what's a good IDE to think of Theia, but to get an awareness of Eclipse and Eclipse Cloud tools, this set of tools we have together as all being, powerful tools in their own right, but a system and a set of things that work well. And lastly, the working group is supported by our membership, the companies that are involved. We definitely want to increase that to help us move forward, do broader things, get more views and leadership from different areas. So I'm not going to talk specifically about all of the things that we've been doing with the working group because they're basically all going to come out in this call. From starting the SIG to running Cloud IDE Day to helping OpenVSX get started and increase. All of these things are going to be covered later on the call, so I won't go into any details now. But I do want to just make a little plug on the last one. For anyone who's in a participant member company, we're having an election soon to get more people as part of the working group. we would love for you to be involved. So if there's any interest, please reach out to Brian or I, and we'll talk about how to get that going. So yeah, that's all I'll say for today. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Tim. Yeah, so just on that last point you made, there is an election coming up. There are 2 seats open in the working group, one on the steering committee and one on the marketing committee. And these seats are open to participant members. So if you yourself are a member of a participant organization and you haven't already thought about this, you would have got reminders from me, but still, please do. Please think about it. The nominations close on Friday. So, there was an email to the ECD Tools working group mailing list. If you didn't see that, please get in touch and we'll fill you in on all the details. Okay. Great. So these are our projects. The tiering you see on this slide is definitely not representative of some projects being more important than others. I would say that just at this present time, we're spending most of our time on certain projects, but all our services, all our programs, everything, all our support is available to any project. So we're ready to work with you anytime. Some of these projects you'll be hearing from very shortly. Now this is an infographic that we put together for our recent Cloud DevTools white paper, which I would recommend you download and read if you haven't already. It's definitely imperfect, right? I don't think there's a perfect way or an obvious way to find connections and represent all our projects all together. So don't take this as as perfect. We think our tools fall loosely into 3 categories. There's IDE technologies, obviously, container deployment tools, and then function or domain specific tools. But they're definitely all in the area of cloud software development, making developers more productive as they move from desktop to the cloud, and innovating on top of that. A lot of our tools are obviously platforms, and Theia is the obvious example, and that's why that's kind of highlighted up there in that there are other projects who use Theia. OpenVSX is becoming more and more important because it's become, I would say, the de facto standard for extending developer IDEs. That fits in nicely with some of our other projects. So yeah, as I said, not a perfect representation, but I think it kind of gives a good overview of some of the relationships between the different projects. So I'm going to hand it off to talk about the CHE project, Florent Benoit, who's a principal software engineer at Red Hat. Florent, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. So hello, everyone. So last week we released a new version of Eclipse CHE. It's 7.34. In the last months, we did a change on GitHub. We had a lot of repositories on GitHub, and we had troubles with the CI stuff. So now we have a dedicated CHE GitHub organization, which is called Eclipse CHE. And we moved all the CHE-related projects to this GitHub organization. And we switched all our projects to use a main branch instead of master branch. We set up as well a new blog website. Before we were using Medium, but now we are using GitHub pages. So you just need to provide some pull request and we can create a blog post. Next slide, please. It's a summary of new features on Eclipse CHE. So we achieve a new milestone for Dev Workspace support in Eclipse CHE. So it's to support the new DevFile 2.0 format. So now we are able to load DevFile 2.0 in Eclipse CHE. And yeah, we did a lot of stuff behind that. The most visible part is that now we have a new dashboard. So before we had a dashboard based on AngularJS. Now it is based on React and Patternfly. So you can see a screenshot on the slide. And yeah, it's more convenient. The UX is more friendly using that dashboard. And now we are supporting new factory workflow. So every time you have to click on a link, we are handling private repositories on GitHub, GitLab, and Bitbucket. It's now possible to backup and restore your installation of CHE. So with a single command, a CLI command, you can backup and restore all your CHE workspaces. And we support new VS Code extension like the support of Jupyter Notebook. And we did some great announcements to support the IntelliJ ID based on a projector. So it's a web ID of IntelliJ. Next slide, please. For the world map, we are using now a GitHub issue tracker, and we added some labels. So you can find 3 different types of labels: 3 months, 6 months, and 1 year. So you can track every CHE roadmap very quickly and easily. So for the next 6 months, the roadmap is to enhance the support of Dev Workspace and DevFile 2.0, to use the new DevFile org community registry instead of using the own CHE registry, to add a backend on dashboard side, and to introduce the quota per user, and to add a new lightweight and authentication and authorization instead of using a key clock by default. That's all on my side. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Florent. I'll hand it over to Nedelcho Delchev of SAP, who's project lead for the Dirigible project.
Okay, thanks, Brian. So I'll give a short update of the most important topics that we are working the last couple of sprints. So currently we have full support of OData v2. So this means all these CRUD operations, deep inserts, etc. It's quite extensively enhanced and used at the moment. Also, based on some customers' requests, we have new APIs introduced in the API stack. So the support for Spark, Apache Spark, Redis, RabbitMQ, Elasticsearch, etcd, and Apache Cassandra. Especially the request was, yeah, the biggest priority was for etcd. So it's the main database in Kubernetes. So another thing that we already have and stabilized is that we already have full automated release cycle based on GitHub Actions. So the whole build, publishing in Maven Central, all the artifacts for all the packages is fully automated based just on some, let's say, change of tags in GitHub. What we envision to, let's say, focus on the next couple of months, we very much would like to be able to deliver Dirigible stack as a Spring Boot application, especially with this single jar concept. Of course, we had to, let's say, avoid using dependency injection based on juice. This was something that was kind of lessons learned for us. But yeah, we were on the road. Another topic is also important for the whole community here. The workspaces currently in Dirigible are kind of, there are a very small number of functionality which are very specific for the Dirigible itself, but all the others are, let's say, generic, let's say, in this way. So the file editing, Git support, etc. It's something standard, which of course can be done not only via Dirigible Web IDE, but also can be done with Eclipse via Theia, VS Code, or any other. And this is something that we want to kind of adapt and to most probably bring some small plugins in Eclipse and in Theia as well. And most probably we'll write some blog posts, etc. How this can be used in this way. So it's not tightly coupled, let's say, with the stack itself. And of course, by this, we also are looking forward to even more improve the modularization and pluggability in Eclipse Dirigible. So it's already more than 260 or 70 modules and plugins. So we should see how we can scale better and to have better discovery mechanism. So that's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Nadalcha. So I'd like to introduce now Philip Langer of Eclipse Source, who's going to talk about EMF Cloud and GLSP, for which he is the project lead. Philip.
Thanks a lot, Brian. Right, so for those who don't know EMF Cloud and GLSP, who don't know them yet, I will just give a very brief introduction, but then focus on really what has been done in the last few weeks. So EMF Cloud is basically an umbrella project to facilitate migrating and developing EMF-based modeling tools into a Theia or cloud-based environment. And it provides a couple of different components that facilitate that, ranging from a model server, about which I will talk a little bit more, and also a couple of other things like tree editors and property views and stuff like that, all the things that you know from the Eclipse ecosystem maybe. So what has been done in the last few weeks in EMF Cloud? So we did a rather large case study as an example to migrate an UML editor from the existing Eclipse implementation based on EMF Cloud technologies and GLSP to Theia. And we didn't do that really to end up having a product that we would like to offer, but rather to gain the experiences of what is actually missing. And from that, we derived a roadmap of what we want to address next. One of those things that we already addressed in the last few weeks is the support for compound commands in the model server. So the model server is a component that runs in the backend, which manages the state of the underlying model that is shown in the different views in a modeling editor. And it not only now can encapsulate the runtime state of these models that are shared, but also can more or less centralize the implementation of compound commands, so that irrespectively of whether you execute an action from a tree view or a diagram view, those don't have to be re-implemented, but can be shared in this backend model service. We also added a few months ago already a property view framework to Theia, so that is super generic to provide property views for arbitrary selections, objects, and so on. What we have been working on recently is to integrate that with the other EMF Cloud components. So for instance, to show directly the model state of a model element that is managed in the model server, for instance. Aside from that, we are planning on working on, have already started working in some degree on a few more features that have been identified in these case studies, which range from validation to diff merge support, so that you can also centralize, for instance, ensuring the correctness of the model in one component and get that populated to all the different views, as well as have support for viewing changes that have been done in the model in the respective representation of the model, for instance, the diagram editor. Right, about GLSP, in case you don't know it, it's mainly focusing on providing a framework and a platform for implementing diagram editors with a backend that encapsulates as much as possible the diagram logic, the editing logic of a diagram. Here we are all about currently the preparations for the upcoming 1.0 release. So we do plan until later this year to move out of the incubation state and provide a 1.0 release. What we are doing in that sense currently is reviewing and improving the API, removing boilerplate code, and so on, so that it's as easy as possible and requires as less code as possible to create diagram implementations in the respective platforms. So this means also that so Eclipse GLSP is not only integratable in Theia, but also in VS Code, as well as in the traditional rich client application platform from Eclipse. So we are looking one after the other of those integrations as well to improve the API. A few other things that we will look at in the next couple of months is better compartment support. So that's also something that came out of the UML modeling editor case study that we did, so that we provide more generic and more more overarching support for compartments. So when you, for instance, move one element from one container element into another element and stuff like that. So it's already supported to a good degree, but many, especially the editing tools, have to be even more improved to be more generic and to avoid the need for customization. We did a lot of work in the VS Code support recently, which is about to be published as a PR. So that will then also involve things like menu integration. We already have integrated undo redo support and copy paste support and all this stuff integrated in the VS Code platform, but it will go even beyond that, so that it's as native as possible if you integrate GLSP diagram editors in VS Code. Last but not least, that's an idea that we were following for quite some time, and that's the idea of dynamic level of detail, so that you can configure in your diagram server which parts should be visible in which zoom level, so that you can more easily get an overview of the diagram if you are zoomed out. For instance, showing, if you consider for instance, a UML class, only showing the name of the class without all the attributes and methods and so on, but just having the label of the class as large as possible when you zoom out. And the more you zoom in, we start showing more and more detail, until which you basically see everything in a diagram that is relevant about the UML class when you are zoomed in at the highest zoom level. Right, I think that's about all that I wanted to cover. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you, Philip. So moving along, JCube, Mark Nuri, project lead, Red Hat, is going to say a few words.
Okay, hello everyone, and thank you for having us. So these are the main highlights for JCube during this period. 2 weeks ago, we released version 1.4, and among other improvements, we added multi-layer support for container images, improved Helm chart generation, included additional configuration options for ingresses, and many more features and improvements. We've also published a dedicated blog post with some demos in case you're interested in learning more about them. I also wanted to point out that we've been creating first-timer only and help wanted issues in order to increase the number of contributors to the project and to grow the community around it. And so far it is going very well. So if you're interested in participating in our project, be sure to check out some of these issues. And finally, we have now started active development of the Gradle plugins, which was a highly requested feature. We'll probably have a preview release by the end of September, and we'll also be hosting a presentation in EclipseCon. So stay tuned, and we hope to see you there. And that's it from my side.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Seems like you have a great cadence of releases. I believe it's monthly at the moment, or close to monthly. So plenty happening in the JCube project. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I'm going to hand it off now to Mark Dumais, project lead of the Eclipse Theia project, who works at Ericsson. Mark.
Thank you, Brian. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, the first news is that last time I was here, I was the only project lead for Eclipse Theia, and now we have elected a couple of new project leads. So welcome to Thomas Mader and Jonas Elming. The A there is a typo, sorry. In recent news, and I think this is a testament to the flexibility of our project, we had the visit from a couple of adopters working at the same company that came to talk to us about how hard it was sometimes to migrate to new version of Theia. So taking that feedback into account, we quickly created a migration guide that will help mitigate these migration issues and permit to share this know-how that pretty much all adopters have to find a way forward one way or another when we have something that needs attention during a migration to a new version of Theia. So instead of having n person doing it in parallel, each on their own, one can do it first and share with the others. So any given adopters will less often need to do deep investigations. And so to help with that, also we created a migration guide necessary tag for issues and pull requests. So if a committer sees that something will need to be documented as part of the migration guide, they can just add this label, and this way we will not miss this aspect. A few recent pull requests that are still under review, and that you know on which we would welcome more reviews and more attention, more testing. So one that has been a long time coming, I remember it being discussed like 4 years ago, is the internationalization. So we have a pull request now from a relatively new contributor. That adds some infrastructure to go in that direction, to be able to have, for example, messages, dialogues in different languages in the applications. As part of our effort to make the project a little bit more formal, we have a few initiatives. One of them is to document or have a policy and document when we should update to the next Node.js version. And Electron as well, I guess, will be a part of this. So it has been done a bit in an ad hoc way so far, but we want to slowly move toward being more formal for this type of thing. So the pull request is there. Something that has been also wanted for a long time, but no one got around to do it until now, is to have a performance test that can be used to measure the potential impact of things that we add to the framework with regard to performance. So we have a beginning here that attempts to measure the startup performance. There can be other measurement that could be done aside from startup. And finally, the last one here, transpile Theia to ES 2017. So JavaScript evolves, and ideally we want to follow if we want to be able to support the latest and greatest features. So this goes into that direction. I wanted to mention, recently, one of the things that has improved and that is maybe not very well known, we have the VS Code built-in extensions that are the extension that are compiled along and bundled with VS Code by default. So these are assumed to be there. They provide syntax highlighting for most languages, and they provide advanced language support, language server, debug adapter for a few languages like TypeScript, JavaScript. So we had these already. If you look at the Theia application right now, you will notice probably a bunch of such built-ins that are listed. There is a much more efficient way to do this that is possible now, is to replace eventually all of them, but for now, most of them with an extension pack. So this is a VS Code extension pack that references a bunch of extensions. It does not really contain them. So in our case, the extension pack and the built-ins are published on OpenVSX. And if you add the extension pack to your application, it can replace 70-ish built-ins that no longer need to be individually listed. We cannot replace them all yet because there's a few that have issues, and for those we need to pin them to a specific version known to work. But this is a minority, maybe around 5 or so. Next slide, please. Thank you. Yeah. All right. So one of the most exciting things. Yes, sorry.
That's okay. My computer is just a bit slow. Go ahead.
Okay. One of the most exciting things. So Theia is a framework, and a framework can be a bit dry. But what is nice is to have some nice application that you can build from the framework. And Theia Blueprint is turning into one of these. So many companies are contributing to Blueprint to make it, in my hope, maybe the first open source Theia application that gets traction out there. So we had the beta release end of July, and we have a beta 2 that is scheduled for the end of the month. We have statistics here. So 10,000, nearly 11,000 downloads overall. And I think it's just the point of the iceberg. Once we have it working nicely, it should take off and have a lot more downloads. Well, for Blueprint especially, but I would say in general, the support of the foundation, especially Brian and Clark, has been very appreciated. So we have nice assets. If you see the Theia logo, for Theia Blueprint logo there, we are also working on the little splash animation when you start Blueprint. Yeah. The support from the foundation is very appreciated there. It's almost like we have a fourth lead that helps with all kind of things around the project that they are really good at, and it helps overall a lot. Next slide, please. Okay, and some initiatives. So I guess this is a good example here. We have a couple of blog posts. One is fresh off the presses today, I believe, about Project Momentum, where we can see many of the adopting companies. So let me mention that if you see that your company is not there, you only need to send some screenshot of your product to Brian, and you can be in such an article in the future, and you can be also added to the Theia website in the adopters section. The website, there is a refresh going on. It has been updated already, and there are more updates that are on the review, I believe. So it is improving incrementally. We have an initiative between the leads and the Eclipse Foundation to reach out to potential contributors. So try to gauge a little bit what is their interest in Theia, and take that feedback to help us make it a more attractive project for everyone. We have a new social media strategy. So if you look at Twitter, for example, you'll see that we now tweet for such things as releases, and probably as well when there is an interesting blog post and anything related around Theia. So that is part of the quote-unquote marketing aspect that I think we are just getting started to exploit a little bit more, and it is an important aspect. And we have TheiaCon that is in the beginning of being planned. So myself and two representatives, one representative for the committers and one representative for the adopters, will form the committee for the event. That will take care of the content, and the Eclipse Foundation will help us with everything else, the logistic of the event and the hosting it. It's an online event, obviously. So and another thing is for EclipseCon, we will participate in the community day. So I believe we have a 1-hour session that is reserved. Where the three leads of the project will have a bit of time to talk about different things. So that should be interesting, not too long. So a good session to attend, in my opinion. So that's it. Thank you.
That's great, Mark. Thank you so much. Lots of great momentum there, obviously, in the Theia project, as in all the projects that were presented today. So keep up the great work, everybody. That's fantastic. I think one project that has been probably less active in terms of contributions in the last few months has been the OpenVSX registry. However, that does not mean that we haven't had focus on it and that there isn't momentum in other areas. So I just want to talk about that for a moment. If you haven't heard of it before, it's the OpenVSX. It's the open source marketplace for VS Code extensions that can be used by all tools supporting the format. So these tools can be Eclipse Theia based applications, VS Code forks such as VS Codium, and other applications as well who choose to support VS Code extensions. It also allows self-hosting of marketplaces. I think the primary service right now is at open-vsx.org, and that service is hosted by the Eclipse Foundation. Open source and proprietary licenses are allowed on openvsx.org. I mentioned some of the integrators there, obviously Gitpod, VS Codium, and others. And as of today, there's 1,270 extensions listed and growing. I think that growth curve is very organic right now. It's growing like, maybe if you're not looking at the video, you mightn't see what I'm doing, but it's kind of more of a steady line of growth rather than a steep line of growth. But we like it that way because we're able to ensure that the service has all the resources it needs as it grows. In saying that, most of the most used and important, most adopted extensions are listed on the OpenVSX registry. Here's a few numbers. So at least 8 adopter tools that we know of. There could be others out there, like any open source project. Who knows how and where it's being used. There could be some, behind closed doors instances of OpenVSX running somewhere. Our servers are pretty busy. We're seeing at least 1.1 million hits per day, which is fantastic. And as I mentioned, 1,270 extensions listed. Okay. So in the interest of time, we'll move quickly through to the next section, and I'd like to introduce Jonas Helming of Eclipse Source. And Eclipse Source are one of the 5 members of our embedded special interest group. So Jonas is going to give an update on what's happening there.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for introducing me. So let's quickly start with the question what a special interest group actually is, because we already have the working group about cloud development tools. Now the special interest group is kind of a subgroup within this working group where people who are building or who are working on a specific problem or in a specific domain come together and discuss, I would say, on another level of detail compared to the working group. So while the working group works on strategic topics and in general strengthens the ecosystem, the special interest group is really focused on a particular topic. And the first instance of such a special interest group is for the embedded area, so developing tools for embedded development, mainly focused on C and C++. Next slide, please. And now this was launched at the beginning of the year. And we, as you can see at the bottom, we have a very interesting set of members in this special interest group. So most of them are actually known to be like in the area of embedded development and like hardware. But there's also service providers. Now, the main goal of this working or of the special interest group is basically bring people together who want to build similar tools. And as mentioned before, in this working group, it's about tooling for embedded development. And the people who come here together are really into the technical details. So we discuss technical questions, technology selection. It's a great place to start common initiatives. So basically to work together on the same problem and share the effort and basically drive the innovation within this ecosystem. Now, the goal of this is to accelerate the development of common components and obviously reduce the cost and thereby strengthen the ecosystem at all. And it's really a great group. So I'm personally part of it. There's a lot of momentum currently and it's really a great forum to share the experience that different companies made. And you can see down there we have ARM, Ericsson, Eclipse Source, Renesas, and ST Microelectronics currently in, and hopefully more in the future. So if you develop or if you plan to develop a tool in that area, C, C++, or embedded, join us. You can, I think you can be there as a guest for some time, for some grace period, and learn whether this actually provides benefit for you. Now, I just mentioned there's a lot of momentum. So we're not only talking in the working group, we basically did an initial exercise to find out the open gaps that are currently there and that the members are interested the most in. And that led to certain initiatives that we're currently working on. The first one is a little bit related to what Mark introduced before. So now that Theia is basically like starting to build up like an open tool that shows the capabilities of Theia, we have started the definition of what we call is Blueprint C++ tooling. And the goal here is essentially currently all vendors who move to web-based tools in this area, they have to repeat a lot of steps in terms of technology selection, evaluation, putting everything together. And if we look at the tools out there, there's like 80–90% of the features are the same, and then every vendor adds his own 20 or 10% of custom things that are specific. But for the common things, we want to provide some more guidance, especially to new adopters, on how to build up a C, C++ tool in the web using the technologies from the ecosystem. And we're working on that. There will be a talk at EclipseCon about that topic. There are two great tools that have been contributed by Ericsson that fall in this category of web-based tools for embedded development. One is the memory inspector that actually enhances the debug view of your tool and allows you to really look at the memory of the application or the device in detail. Actually tried it today, or used it today. It's really great. It shows changes on the memory in different representations and so on. So it's really very powerful. So the other members are currently evaluating that and providing feedback. And again, the special interest group is a great forum to discuss that, not over bug reports, but also just ask questions in between the lines, like, can you help me with this? Or what's your direction? What's the strategy? Same for Trace Compass, a tool that you might know from desktop. Great tool for tracing or visualization of tracing information. Has also been contributed by Ericsson. And again, other parties are actively evaluating and adopting that. There's one smaller but very important component that has been contributed and is actively maintained by Renesas. That's an adapter from the GDB protocol to the debug adapter protocol, enabling to essentially debug applications that are connected to a GDB debug server. And one common problem that we're currently, or that we have just started to work on, is related to the ClangD language server. If you have ever used that before, you might run into the problem that if you have a workspace where you have several different contexts in, that could be several projects or several configurations, and you want to display different language assist for the different contexts you're in, that's not super easy to do with ClangD, but we're currently working on a solution on supporting that in a better way and thereby provide more powerful tooling. Yeah, and again, if you're interested in any of these topics or anything else in that area, feel free to join the group. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonas. Yeah, so we're very happy with the momentum and the great work that's been done in the embedded special interest group, and we're thinking of setting up similar groups for other domains. So if you have any ideas, if you see some momentum in the market towards the cloud development tools, please let us know. So I'm going to ask my colleague Clark Randy. He's going to talk about some of our thought leadership programs really quickly.
Thank you, Brian. So as Tim introduced our strategic objectives, one of them is to establish thought leadership. And we have implemented a number of programs, introduced a number of new programs to help achieve this objective. This is a new white paper. I hope that you have all downloaded it. If you haven't, I would encourage you to do so. And it is meant to showcase the working group, the projects, the members, and our contributions to the cloud development tool community. We launched it towards the end of Q2. It has gotten some good traction. We've had nearly 5,000 downloads as of today. And it's kind of our flagship document that we are using right now to tell our story. Next slide, Brian. So this is so we've had 2 white papers that we've introduced so far this year, and this shows you a little bit of the traction that we've had with both of them. We launched the OpenVSX white paper towards the end of Q1. That one we've got a lot of new contacts from that. We've had over 13,000 page views. The one I just showed you, the Cloud DevTools one, it's something that we're seeing more downloads on a daily basis. It's very active. We're getting a lot of good traction with both of these assets. Next, this I think was one of the best events that this organization has ever done. In fact, it is the best event we've ever done. 212 registrations, over 140 attendees. The sessions were great. We're going to make this a regular part of our programming. We're going to do at least 1 or 2 events similar to this on an annual basis. So watch for more events like this. We appreciated the contributions of all the speakers. All of these all of this talks are now on our YouTube channel. If you didn't attend the event, would like to rewatch any of those talks, take a look at our YouTube channel. Next slide. We've introduced a few new programs this year. The first is our Cloud Chat Twitch series. This is being hosted by Jesse Williams of AWS. We've done 3 episodes so far, and I really like the way this has come together. It's very conversational. It's fun, interactive. Jesse has done a fantastic job. We are now looking for additional guests, for new guests to line up. So if you're interested in this, please let us know. We do have a sign-up form. You can contact me directly or reach out to Jesse as well. I think Jesse's on this call. Do you have anything that you wanted to talk about with this, Jesse?
Hey, Clark, can you hear me?
Yeah, there you are.
All right, awesome. Sorry about that. No, I don't, but thanks for the shout out. Like Clark said, if you would like to have a conversation, we're talking about both the tools and how projects are being managed and promoted. Anything like that would be valuable to someone who might be interested in committing to your project, or someone who might be interested in open sourcing some software of their own. Anything like that would be interesting to talk about. So just let us know. I'm in Slack along with everyone else.
Thank you, Jesse. So the other event series that we have launched over the past several months is the Cloud Tool Time webinar series. We just hosted our 10th episode 2 weeks ago, and this has gotten some really good traction. We're lined up with new episodes through most of the remainder of the year. We do have some open slots, so if you are interested, let us know, because those there are just a few open slots between now and the end of the year. As Mark mentioned, we'll be hosting a TheiaCon event towards the end of the year. We have tentatively marked the week of November 15th as being the time slot for that. Stay tuned, more to come. EclipseCon coming up on the week of October 25th. And we are going to have a community day as part of that, as Mark also mentioned. Again, if you want to be a participant in any of these events, you can see the links there. It's a really easy, quick sign up form. Or again, reach out to me, reach out to Brian, and we'll make sure it happens. Next. We earlier this year, we launched a strategic research project. We did this through a third party, and we're just now getting the results from that. It was fielded in the second quarter between April and May. There were over 300 interviewees as part of this research project. The main objective here, as you can see, there are 4 of them. We're to identify usage trends for cloud IDEs and the related tools. Secondly, we wanted to determine some opportunities for the working group. Maybe help with some roadmaps, what things that we need to focus on within our projects. Provide that insight to you folks as project leads. And third was to stress test some of our messaging. We do have some marketing messages for various projects for the working group in general that we wanted to see how they resonated with the folks that we were interviewing. And finally, really we just want to make some. We want to be able to show our thought leadership by being able to recommend to not only our members but others in the industry what should be the focus of cloud dev tools in the future. So watch for this. This is again, we've got the data, we're going through it right now, and are putting together the reports. We plan to launch this towards the end of Q3, and perhaps in conjunction with EclipseCon. Next, and finally, the long-awaited website is we're down to some of the final development and design on this. It's coming together really nicely, and we do expect to launch it in September. This just shows a few of the pages and the overall look and feel. As part of this, we will be doing landing pages for each of the projects. You can see the image on the right is the one that's been designed for OpenVSX. We'll be doing this for each of the projects. So as we get further into this project, we'll be reaching out to each of the project leads and working with you on how we want those pages to look. Any questions about that? Back to you, Brian.
Thank you, Clark. So very quickly to round it out, I know we're running up on time, but I'll certainly be around for a couple of minutes after. If you have any questions, feel free to stick around. But very quickly, just to wrap it up, membership updates. These are our current members, and worth noting is we have 3 new members this year who all came in via the embedded SIG, that's ARM, Renesas, and ST Microelectronics. If you are interested in joining, please reach out. We're always, as Tim said earlier, we're looking for new members all the time. And I think most of you here already know how to get involved. I won't dwell on this, but just some reminders. We have our mailing list, we have our community Slack, we have these weekly calls, and of course, each project has their own communications infrastructure as well. So if you're interested in a particular project, check out their websites. We have ecdtools.eclipse.org. The redesign is currently ongoing, as Clark said, so watch out for that in September. Obviously, each project has their own site as well, and we're on social. So follow us, share our tweets, and so on. I'm not going to talk about all of these individual ways to get involved. But the general message I was put out is that, we have lots of content, we have lots of great things happening in our projects, so please help us amplify that. Amplify it both within your organizations, but also to the wider world. The goal, of course, is to increase adoption of our projects, to bring more contributors into our projects, and to increase the membership of the working group, and just to create a more vibrant community. And we're certainly really happy with the momentum that's been happening this year. So let it continue. Thank you all very much. And as I said, stick around for a couple of minutes if you have any questions. If you have to jump off, that's fine as well. All right. Okay. Well, if any questions do pop up, or if you just want to chat, you know where to find us. Slack is probably your first port of call. You'll find us there fastest, but just drop us an email. Send the calendar invite. We're always available to support you. So thank you to everybody. Thank you to all the project participants who presented today. Thank you to all our contributors, and see you at EclipseCon, see you at TheiaCon, and keep up the good work. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.